You're listening to The Dating Den with dating and relationship badass and best-selling author Marni Batista. Every week, you'll get the raw truth from top experts and real people on the important dating, sex, and relationship issues you want to know about. So if you're ready for true talk that's authentic and unfiltered, and you're not afraid to be called out on your stuff, then you're ready for what's next.
The Dating Den with Chris Gillis. Have a breakup? When is it the right time to date again?
All right, ladies, welcome into the Dating Den. I am traumatized from the last episode of The Bachelorette. No, but really, this is just, I want to talk about this just right. I want to just get it right from the get-go.
We're just jumping in, everybody. Good.
We're jumping in. I'm here with Chris Gillis, my man panelist extraordinaire, and good friend and member of Bachelor Nation in a nutshell, my own private Bachelor Nation group. I mean, honestly, this is just like exactly what happens in a breakup where two people have completely different experiences of what happened. And both of them, it's true for both of them. And then obviously as the audience, we see what we see through the lens of our own experience. And you can see by what's going on the internet that people have different opinions based on what they see and what they know. But
everyone's so sure. Everyone is so sure that they're right. That's what's so crazy about it.
Yeah, everyone's super sure that they're right. And 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 the thing that to me that based on my expertise is, and I know this was also online, but if you are in a new relationship, when you're having that conversation about what wrong with your ex, I just think that there's some leftover stuff. And I always ask people, or people always ask me rather, how do I know if I'm ready to be in a new relationship after a breakup? And there's like three things. And one of them is, you are emotionally free from your past relationship. And I would just say that I did not get a vibe that Katie was emotionally free from her breakup.
That's fair. Yeah, I think everybody, even the people who, like I was saying last week, who were just 100% and like, no, fucking gaslighter, Greg's the worst. Even them was like, nah, that was just wrong. She was just cruel. Isn't it funny how when you see somebody, everyone's all brave and stuff, and with the whole, I'm thinking about all the fights we had during COVID, and but then you stick a human being next to you, and then you see what that does to the other person, and then you're watching her say that to Greg, and you're like, oh man, actually no, hold on, honey, he is trying his best, which isn't amazing, because none of us can be. But yeah, you're like, dang, it just came across cruel. And then it seems like a lot of the people on the internet who were 100%, Team Katie are like, okay, let's just move on to it. Let's talk about Bachelor in Paradise, which they all did.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is that, and that's what's really interesting is that when you look, everybody reacts like the little kid, right? And so now we can, so this is really interesting too about like how the way we are raised impacts us. And so we meet in this episode Katie's mom and her aunt, who is basically like, I would say this is, I think 100% of the people would agree that that's not an emotionally healthy, resilient person. Like she's very angry, very cut off, very disconnected, very much like we don't need men in this family. If we don't care about you, like very cold. And so it makes perfect sense now, doesn't it? When we saw Stone Cold Katie, we're like, oh,
you were so confused, Marni. You were. I was telling Emily, I was like, man, like Marni's gone from, I don't like Katie, I love Katie. I now like, oh God, who is this girl? And then like, wait, I'm confused. And then like, okay, now I don't like back and forth. And we were all scratching our head. And I was like, dude, I knew it. I said, I think I even said it earlier on. It's like has this weird button where she's going to break down or just shut off and turn into this cold, different person. And if you lock horns with her, and man, she does not look fun to engage with. And there was no discussion. And that's what was so hard about it. And I think breakups can be so awesomely valuable. Breakups from get it from a job when you get fired. Getting that feedback, right, can be so helpful, and or like, closure. But I didn't feel, and nobody did. I think even Caitlin Briscoe, and they were like, "Oh,
this is getting really mean."
yeah,
And that's what it was.
Get them off the fucking
And that
stage.
but it was really realistic in that, like, when you are
Yeah.
hurt by somebody, and I was just saying this to the other day to Jeremy, because we're living in, like, 36 feet, the space between us. And I realized this pattern that when he gets sarcastic or short with me, then I default to being mean back. And I'm not even mean, right? Like, that's not me, but like, I just start being like that little bratty, like 12-year-old, like sibling, type of thing, where you're just like, fine then, and that's what happens, right? Even when we're super conscious and self-aware and whatever, when we feel like someone's stealing our toys on the playground, we kick them in the ankles and take their toy, and I think that when we're not being an our emotional adult, and that's what's crazy, is that I think during a breakup, even if you're, well, let's just say for most people after breakup, I would say this is a very normal fight. Sometimes it happens in person and sometimes it happens on text, right? But by the time someone has moved on, dated someone else, and is engaged to another person, and you talk to that person about what went wrong in your relationship, there's a little bit more of the adult, like, retrospective, taking responsibility for your part, seeking understanding. And this all happened so fast that it was clear that Katie didn't have the space to be in her adult self. My guess is in the future, at some point, she will, and she will also now have to apologize for her behavior, because there's just no way in any sort of landscape that it's okay to talk to someone like that. Especially, and there was funny memes about, like, Katie gaslighting Greg while she's accusing him of gaslighting her, blah, 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 blah. And I don't even want to use that word. It's just, she said he was talking down to her. I didn't really get that. Like, I have to look really hard to see that, but I think a kindergartner could say, like, Mommy, why is that lady being so mean to that boy?
Yeah.
You don't need to have, like, a ton of, like, personal development experience to be like, wow.
No.
She was like, yeah, you had that. Because the next time you fucked it up about that. I mean, she was literally like an adolescent. I don't know, but it was sad.
Marni, what do we call the I've learned a couple things from Bachelor Nation. I learned about doing like the prune lips, the prune face thing that girls do, where they, like, pull their like nose down and their lips. What do you call those mean girl bitchy looks? Those, like, the bouquet looks, what I call it, like bouquet. She was sitting there and she had her, like, fucking lips just. She was so. You know what I'm talking about? Greg said something, and it was just like, oh my God, I hate that look. And she just fucking stank faced him so
and
nasty.
Go back. I mean, I wonder if there's any, and I'm sure there are memes online of Aunt Lindsay's that face. I don't know what you call it.
Holy
and
moly.
Katie's that face. It's just, look, on our campus, we call it a love shield. And it literally just pushes, it's a shield to protect yourself, right? You're a little kid that got abandoned, that was raised like, we don't need no stinking man. You're not enough. I'm not enough. I mean, look, I had forgotten, and that Katie found out when her father was on his deathbed that man wasn't her real father.
Oh.
So her dad that passed away, that her and Greg shared that bonding moment, was not her bio dad. So the mom had a relationship with someone, and that man was Katie's actual bio dad, and she did not know that. So there's a whole lot of secret keeping, and then we see that she's keeping a secret about her engagement from her family, which probably is she's ashamed, or she doesn't want Aunt Lindsay to kick her in the ass. So there's this family history of secrets, of protection and guarded. And so all that I can see while I'm watching that, there's the part of me that's like, wow, like that. And I hate to use the word, but it's like, wow, I wrote it in our little chat. I was like, she's kind of being a bitch. And I hate to use that word, but She is,
Why are you
right?
using that word? I didn't. Why do we hate using that?
I don't know. It's just
Are we
like,
losing that word? Good Lord, you
no,
lost literally for a
I
minute.
mean,
Now
it's just like, it just comes from a place of like not having compassion for
simple.
her pain.
Yeah.
Like, but if the next morning I'm like waking up and I'm like going to go sit there and have a conversation with Katie, instead of being like, why were you such a bitch? I'd be like, wow, like what's going on?
Yeah.
Like,
Be more specific.
you really felt like you had to protect yourself.
Yeah.
And that's what
I
happens.
was also noticing something. So speaking of like their family and their, Mama Thurston and then, Lindsay, and we talked about this on some of the, on some of our man panel stuff. And we talk about how attraction, and we've said it actually on this podcast, and we're like, man, like, well, hopefully I'm not fucking wrong, but I was like, dude, like Michelle, there was going to be our next Bachelorette. I was like, when she first walked outside, I thought, yeah, she's pretty attractive. But then as soon as she showed who she was and her energy, like she is so attractive and she just gives such awesome energy. Those poor Aunt Lindsay, and their mama Thurston, they must have been so hurt that they were just vile and repulsive. And it wasn't until a second ago, like I think we paused it on something because I was like, oh my God, are you seeing this? And I think maybe Emily stopped and paused. And as I was saying that, because they were so, it just just a simple word like ugly to me. And I stopped and I looked at the screen. I go, wait a second, Aunt Lindsay and their mom, they're actually like biologically beautiful women, but you can tell they've just weathered and they've got so much stuff going on. I'm like I took a look at Aunt Lindsay's bone structure and her face. She's actually a gorgeous woman.
Yeah.
Like, good Lord, so much poison was coming out of her. And from the second, before he even said a thing, Blake had a chance to say anything. I was like, oh God, I need to go to another room and stay away from this woman. And it's just powerful, about how our insides can be way more powerful than our outsides.
Well, and I think that's for me, and I was totally a fan of Katie at the beginning. And I think like at the end, I was just like, wow, I don't see your energetic leaking of your fear, like she says in the burning ceremony with that, what was that? Zippawawa. What was that called? Zimbawa?
I don't know.
I don't even know what that was exactly, but she basically
Chuck E. Cheese thing lit on fire.
Yeah, it wasn't Chuck. It was like what's that scary movie with the puppet face?
Yes, it did. Yes.
Yeah.
Like the Saw thing or whatever.
Yeah. Anyway,
scary dude is
scary face. So, but she says like, I don't think I'm enough. I'm not lovable. Blah blah blah. And like, and then let's put a pin in that too, because Jeremy was like, "What's wrong with sharing your fears with somebody?" And why did Blake go, "Oh shit, like that's a lot." So we'll talk about that in a minute. But I think like that she's so protected of herself, of not thinking she's lovable or enough, that she has to project. She has to make herself better than Greg in that moment to feel better about herself, right? Is that she has to make someone else feel small. And I think that that's what happens when we are in an argument with someone and our mean girl side comes out or whatever it is. It's just our own fears and our own doubts about ourselves. And so in order to feel better about ourselves, we need to make someone else small or wrong. We talk about 100%. It even with our clients sometimes that in order to end something, that you have to blame somebody. Right. You can't just end something because it wasn't right. You have to make them wrong or you have to put them down. And it's like, how could you be in your adult self in a breakup and just be like, hey, you know what? You're not a match. And I saw something on and it was weird. It was from that Chris Bristow, whatever her name is, Caitlin Bristow's boyfriend. And it was, oh God, I can't find it now. But he sort of said like, and maybe I'm butchering this, but my interpretation was something like, you walk away not because you're not sure if someone is, your person. You walk away when you are 100% sure they're not. And to me, Greg, in that moment, he walked away because he was like, wow, this is not happening. You're not my person. And also, I sent you guys an article, and this writer had actually gone over the dialogue in the scene where Katie is on her knees. And just for a fact check, she never said anything about please stay. I need you to stay. She didn't beg him to love her.
Really?
She said, I don't know. Well, yeah, I'll find it. She said, I don't know what to do about this.
That's all. Yeah, that's another great point because, like, like we said a second ago, the subtext is, and and it's in her mind. I guess I bet that's probably what she wanted to say, but she couldn't say it, and that's how and she kept repeating the that is fact so many times, and the internet is now saying that. But you're saying, yeah, you actually saw the transcript and the tape, and no, that's not what went down.
Yeah, she says, she said in the show last night, in that moment, I completely blame myself. I'm trying everything I can to make him stay. I'm literally on my fucking knees begging this man to stay, and he's telling me it's not good enough. And this writer says, sorry, got to throw a penalty flag on that claim based on what we saw last week. And yes, plenty could have been edited out. However, what we saw, Katie never once begged Greg to stay. Here's a sampling of what she did say. I don't even know what to do right now, given everything that's happened. Yeah. I don't even know what to say. I want to leave if I'm being completely honest. The closest she got to asking him to stay is this. This whole thing feels like it was for nothing if you leave. And that's the other thing, right? Like, and also, like, if Katie was truly desperate for Greg to stay, if he really was her number one, as she said, later in the interview on that show last week, then why did she get engaged to another guy a few days later? Right? She wants to blast Greg for abruptly abandoning their relationship. Okay, fine. But it seems like she's guilty of doing the exact same thing.
Maybe her Mama Thurston got in her head. She goes, we don't need a damn man to make us happy. And hey, there's another one waiting around the corner. Who likes maple syrup on his wiener. So let's go and do this.
That's so funny.
And they did.
I didn't realize that Blake was Katie's third choice, and Blake was on The Bachelor twice, so that would make Katie his third choice. And there was a really funny thing I sent you of their two facial expressions when you just said "I do" to your third choice.
Speaking of when you were saying something a second ago about Katie, about how she about putting people down, and when you don't know what to do or what to say or how to have finality closure and all this stuff. That's interesting because that is what or being condescending. That is what her one of her matriarchs with Aunt Lindsay was like telling her. She kept doing to Blake. She kept saying, oh honey, that's sweet, that's so cute, but that's not how it works. She kept saying that. Oh, that's cute. Oh, that's so cute. That's not how it works. Like, wow, such an interest. That's not. And they, of course, didn't offer to give any advice on how it does work with her infinite wisdom or give some relationship advice. Exactly. She just kept telling him, "You're a moron. You're childish."
She talked down to him.
Yes, right? Babe. That's what I'm saying. It's like the same thing that
Katie did. And that's what's really interesting too is so I'm always about words. So my guess is that the language in her there's a language, right? We talk about like linguistics or the use of language in a family system. And if I were going to like be a detective, I would guess that that's a thing in that family. Like, don't talk down to me. You talk down to me. Because obviously Aunt Lindsay talks down to people, right? Condescends, is contemptuous. Yeah. So that's the words that she uses, right? You talk down to me. Because my guess is that they talked down to her when she was growing up.
Babe, you saw what I was blown away. I was like, obviously Katie's a badass. Like, give this woman some credit. And they walked in there like she had Aunt Lindsay and her mom, like, Katie had no idea. Like, she was a little child, and Katie just sat there and shrunk. She went from being this powerful woman who's so awesome, and she just sat there and she swallowed her tongue and just took it all and didn't even stop to say, "Oh, well, I don't know, you haven't been here," or "Hey, actually, it's a little different," or we didn't see anything. She just was little and shrunk, and then mom and dad just told her how she was wrong. It doesn't need guys and rushing everything, and I'm like, oh my goodness, he's just swallowed every chum they threw in the water. And it's like, okay, just kind of nodded her head silently. And that was hard to see. It was like, that's Jesus.
It was the whole, I did not, I know Dr. Emily enjoyed the episode, but I thought it was so awkward and uncomfortable. I didn't enjoy watching it.
I enjoyed it. I know, Marni.
I
enjoyed it. I enjoyed it because I knew we were going to have so much to talk about.
Well, that's
I don't enjoy knowing this exists in real life, but it was just so up and down. And so, and you're like, everything kept like, I didn't see that coming. I didn't see so many strange twists and turns, and people and events and people getting ditched and left. And oh my goodness. And I can't believe she showed up the way she showed up. And it was just getting like worse and worse in a good way. We were like watching it through like with our hands over, with our fingers spread over, watching it.
Yeah,
and like
you're
kept
like,
staring at each other.
Oh my God. And
the
the other
fake
thing
breakup,
is,
real breakup, so much.
Yeah, the breakup with I didn't, Justin. The other thing that I think is really interesting too is that when Claire called it, like Claire Crawley called her season because she found the one after like 2 weeks or whatever it was.
Yeah.
She didn't play the game. Like she didn't like say, okay, well, can I have a fantasy suite night with Dale? Can I like have a last date with Dale? I need, I mean, he did propose, I believe. But Katie just really wanted to, and this is where I credit Greg, because I think he nailed it. He was like, you just wanted to play the role of the Bachelorette. And she really did. It was like, it was her wedding day. And she wanted to make sure she like caught the bouquet, had someone take the garter off her knee, blah, 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 blah. Check the boxes of being the Bachelorette, because she could have just said like, Blake is my guy. I'm done. Like, we're good. He could just propose. But no, we had to do the like meeting the family situation. We had to do the last date. We had to do the burning the blah, 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 blah. The whole thing was just that's what I felt like. The whole thing was so contrived and so false to me. That was my vibe about it. It was very much
You were confused as much as I was down to the weird proposal, not proposal.
Yeah, and then you add in, and this was the other thing that was just cringy to me. So I felt like there was a lot of suppressing emotion, right? So Katie is having to suppress her emotion over her loss of her breakup. She just pushes it away. You don't process that in like 12 hours. You just don't. So, but she compartmentalizes it and then shows up on this date, whatever. Then we see Blake having all these fears and concerns after meeting the family, after doing the ring thing. And Tayshia's like, oh, but that's what you came here to do. Go, you do it, which was totally was biased. But anyway, so Blake, we don't see him processing. He just squishes the emotions and says, let's go for it. So that all feels very inauthentic to me. And then you add in the container of these horribly, I've just really never realized that hosting is a talent. Like shame on me. Like they make it look so easy. Jeff Probst, Chris Harrison, Ryan Seacrest, they make it look really easy.
So easy. Yep.
Yeah. Like, well, let's dial that one in. And in the container of such poor hosting, the whole thing just felt like I was watching an SNL skit on The Bachelor.
Yeah, I thought I was watching a really poorly hosted version of America's Funniest Home Videos, and they would say something like, everybody's all crying and sad, something awkward happened. Well, everybody, look at the next screen, A Bachelor in Paradise. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, it was there was no context. It was
no transition, no anything. It was that's so funny. So yeah, they made it okay. Made it show like the hosting is a real skill and talent that not everybody can do it. But hey, what do you know? They got like contracts for 2 more years now. Jesus Louise.
They did?
Yes.
No.
They did.
That's painful.
I know.
Well, maybe they'll go to hosting school or acting school. Or someone will teach them how to. Maybe someone will teach them how to be professional hosts. So good for them. Okay.
Mario Lopez, if you're out there listening to our podcast, hit up the girls.
I mean, Craig. I was thinking Craig would make you such a great host. Okay.
No.
So my other thing I want to make sure we talk about is this, because there is Brene Brown talks about this, about like what is real vulnerability and when is it appropriate, and then she talks about she uses the analogy about when you're oversharing, the difference between vulnerability and she calls it like spotlighting, where like it's like a car headlight. It's like, and you're blinded by all that vulnerability and you're like, whoa, like that's too much, meaning like you showed me it's too much for the context. And so when Katie and Blake are doing their little burning ceremonies and they share their vulnerabilities or their fears, I was just like, oh Lord, because what happens is, and I think a lot of ladies, this happens when they're dating. They're like, oh, I showed my fears. I told him that I was scared about this, or I told him about this thing. And then he freaked out and pulled away. And so why would I ever want to like show myself again? That happens
Yeah.
a lot. Right. And so in that scene, for those of you who don't watch, like she basically is like, I'm afraid of being left. I'm afraid of not being enough. Whatever it is. And then we see a little interview with Blake and he's like, she shared all that shit with me. And that was like a lot. That is a lot. I don't think, he says, I don't think I could, I don't know if I want to be responsible for all that. If I let her down in any way, she would be devastated. And that's like a lot of pressure. That's a lot to handle because what she said is, and now I have all these fears, but because of you, I feel I'm going to let those things go. I'm going to let those things go because you love me. And so what I want to point out for the listeners is that's not okay, right? Like, because some of that stuff is her stuff. And so she's going to say and be vulnerable. It would be like, there's a part of me, my child self, my wounded self, the part of me that lost my dad, the part of me that blah, blah, blah is afraid I'm not enough. And I know that's not true. And I'm wanting to let go of that so I can be in this relationship with you. Very different than here's my issues. And now that I've met you, I'm going to let those go because I'm putting, and I will say, to Aunt Lindsay's credit, she shouldn't put her emotional safety in the hands of another person.
Yep.
And I've seen lots of I used to coach men way back in the day. And I remember I had this guy, God, I don't remember what his name was. But I remember that he was dating someone named Angela and he loved Angela. He really liked her a lot. But she would say things like that all the time. And it's the situation that you had with your ex, where after a while you're like, shit, I can't fill that bucket. Like it's way too much pressure. And so he ended up breaking up with her because he was like, I don't have enough to give to fill your hole of self-doubt and self-loathing. And so I really want to point that out, ladies, because it's not like that it's bad that she shared herself with him. It's that she believes those things are true. She's not saying that's a pattern I have or that's a wounded part of myself that believes that. And I'm going to work on that. I'm going to let that go so I can show up as my adult self and be in this relationship with you. That's a huge difference rather than the other thing that I said probably 3 times now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And it's almost, as being on the recipient of that end in a relationship with somebody, it feels really defeating and depowering to be in there and not be able to give the woman that you love, no matter how tough a relationship is, what they want, and it's just shitty way. It's something. It's not nice to do to the other person because no matter what happens, like I said, it's like you're shoveling coal in a bottomless pit, and I just kept putting on my hard hat every day, and I couldn't do it, and I just felt so bad, And of course, then what do I do in the next relationship? I switch over to, I dated Aunt Lindsay, who doesn't need anything. I'm like, okay, I need you to need me a little bit. I want to,
right?
Can I just put on my work boots? No, just put on some house slippers, you little bitch boy in an apron. Laying and doing my nails. Okay.
But we do that. But that's what we do, and so, and that's my concern is that for two people who are emotionally unavailable because they've got their shields up and they're really good at squashing and putting away stuff, that's ultimately comes back to bite you in the ass. And and I think Katie is relishing she's relishing right now. Like, I think she thinks Blake is hot and they have great chemistry, but also I think she just sort of is a little bit of like, see, Greg, I got a guy anyway, right? Like that energy of wanting to be right.
Yes, absolutely. That's it. Yeah. And the need to be right. Like, well, where is that? Yeah. Coming from an need to push, to step on somebody to be right, to push that down. And that was early on in the season. That's what like made my ears perk up. I go, uh-oh, we may have a problem here. Not everything is as it seems with this strong, sex positive, fun, playful a woman.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
and we're like, wait a second. Now, Marni, it's kind of all making sense with we're looking back, and I know we just know a tiny snippet of her real life, but with Aunt Lindsay and her mom and Katie being sexually taken advantage of, and all, and then you see bad, like, strong Katie, and then you'll see I can't say I love you, Katie, and the next thing you know, she's gushing about she found her soulmate within, like you said, a couple days later. This was all filmed over 6 months too, by the way, or 6 weeks, by the way.
6
So it's like, holy moly.
weeks. That
You just
article,
went from,
yeah. Yeah, go
right?
ahead.
You just went from like this dude who you're obsessed with and in love with, and you're so sad and crying, and now you just changed your mind, like, and that's always scares me when somebody can be, it's so devastated, and then just like fucking psychopath, and then they change their mind and like, I'm so happy I found my soulmate. Like, wait, what? It's healing takes time, and it's so does falling in love and process. It's all just so scarily quick, and oh man, that's what that's with so many red flags, and it just seemed I knew something was off, and shit in the fuckery, and the way she sat on the couch, Marni, and she didn't have any regrets or doubts, or she was just mad and angry. I'm like, good Lord, does this woman quite know who she is yet, or is she curious that the mistake she's made and who she is? I don't get that she is.
No, not at all. She was not taking any responsibility. And if you look, that's what I'm saying. Play back the scene of Aunt Lindsay talking to Blake, and then play the scene of Katie going off on Greg. It's literally the exact same thing. So she's just, and if I were Blake, I would be scared out of my fucking mind. But your hormones get going. You're famous. Someone else bought the ring. You didn't have to pay for it. I mean, honestly, if you're a dude like that, and again, I have no idea, because I don't think anyone on that show has ever, they're all contractually bound to only say certain things. But in the end, it's like no harm, no foul, right? He didn't dish out 10 grand or 15 grand for a ring. He just had to go up there, pick one out, stick it on her finger, ride out on a horse, be on TV, blah, 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 deal with it later.
Pick one out with his ex-girlfriend, by the way. That's worth noting. How cool, how weird was that?
What about his ex-girlfriend? Wait, what? Oh, yeah, that was weird.
He had to pick one out with his ex-girlfriend. Like, hold on, remember that girl you wanted?
I can't even. That's just, there's all these, I can't, all these people are professional hosts. I'd be so mad. Anyway, okay, let's talk about this before we wrap up. Because we did make you made a great list. And that is the long distance relationship thing. And I don't know what Blake is doing in Africa. I mean, I love that he does Africa, and I love that he's passionate about it, because that's my thing too. But the thing is really interesting is, and this is again just sort of the timeline of relationships. Logistics do matter. And so again, the way that Blake and Katie were like to Aunt Lindsay and the mom, we're on a timeline here, people. We don't have time to figure this shit out. Tomorrow is proposal day. We're going for it, right? And in real life, I hope that anyone who's listening would be like, that is actually part of the dating process. So, and by the way, Greg last week said, me and Katie have talked about logistics. She would come to New York for a while, blah, 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 blah. So she's not an idiot. I mean, there was 24 hours. They just didn't have time. At least we didn't see them figuring that stuff out. And he doesn't even have it. He's unemployed. He volunteers. I don't even know. But I do think that you could have a long distance relationship if there's a timeline on it, if there's some agreements, if there's, some context around what it's going to look like. And so I do think having conversations about logistics matters, because, and we joked about this, I think it was Michael A. who said we love each other, and that's enough to get through the hard times. Clearly, as Katie and Greg demonstrated, loving each other is not enough to get through the hard times, because I do believe that Katie and Greg were in love with each other as much as you can be after a month. So I think you should talk about Africa. I think you should figure that shit out. I don't know. What do you think?
I 100% agree. And I was thinking about you. Actually, last night when we're being like, oh no, we're all of a sudden we're good, we're love, we're gonna figure it out. That's all we need here, and he'll get on a plane, and yeah, and they haven't had their first fight, which is when I think the relationships actually starts, and I don't see it lasting very long. But hey, we'll see.
What do we know? I mean, some of these things break up in like weeks, like the Madison and Pilot Pete thing. I think that
Oh yeah,
lasted like,
Prue.
a
Yeah,
week
it's true.
or so. So some of these things just don't last more than a couple of weeks. So we'll see. I think she admitted that they didn't really know each other when they got down on one knee, because she was like, "Oh, that couple that you saw get down, that's not even us right now." Like, and maybe it's
Oh
like
yeah.
maybe it's like an arranged marriage. They barely knew each other. They knew they had attraction. They were the only two people left at the end, and now like they're getting to know each other, and they actually are really compatible, and that's great, and that's the luck. Because we all know people got married when they were 20 or 22 or whatever, and they've been married for 70 years. Like that had totally happened. So
Yeah,
it could
yeah,
happen. My
yeah,
concerns more are around that Katie has a shit ton of issues, people,
yeah,
that are
yeah.
unresolved, and she's leaking all over the place. And when I talk about leaking, that is, I mean, my God, she is the queen of demonstrating what that looks like. 1 minute you're bubbly and fun, 1 minute you're cold, 1 minute you can express,
Yeah.
1 minute you can't, one
Yeah.
minute you're talking down, 1 minute you're you want to give up. Like that's
Yep. Next man, you found your soulmate. Like, wait, what?
yeah.
Hold on. So much. And I also yeah, it's almost like two, I think they work temporarily. They're two avoidant, style
Yes.
people. And yeah, and it didn't work when in the end. Oh yeah, let's talk about this more. How fucking crazy is it? How quickly, dude, that Blake guy, I know he is silver tongued. His speeches when he said he loved her. Oh, he's so good. Oh, like this guy is like a true
It was a
hunter.
little weird.
He
It
knew
was like
exactly.
I've only said I love you to my
Yeah,
mommy and my daddy.
my
I'm like,
mom,
what?
my dad.
Yeah, I was like, wow, okay, that's pretty limited. But anyway, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yes. But I think the man's a smart man, and he stole her fucking playbook, and he read it off, and she's like, oh my God, somebody. So instead of being thinking that, okay, either she's got two roads here. Either she takes the road down the Greg's path, like, oh my God, I'm so wrong for screwing up. America's never going to forgive me because I had my stupid rule where I couldn't say I love you, and the whole planet's mad at me, and I this awesome guy. Or wait, this guy just gave me a beautiful green light, open road, where he says he agrees with me on Lindsay style. I'm right. I'm right. He actually values that. Yeah, you don't say I love you. You don't give it out, and he's 100% okay with me. No resistance at all. I'm going straight down that bobsled path, dude, versus that fucking mountain lit fire rocks with it that have to do where I have to face all my demons and say I'm sorry and be like, well, why do I stick with my guns? And is that Lindsay really the best role model here?
Exactly.
Instead, switched straight down that, slid down it head first, and on the way down, she's like, on her back, like, oh, I found my soulmate. Like, what in the world? What an easy path out of all that. Oh, we'll figure it out in Africa, or maybe not. And he'll come to Renton, Washington. Like, what? And no, yeah. So that was so. But it was so. What's so fascinating about it is that she was the role of she flipped over, and like she became like the Greg, where he gave her all the affirmation and the words, affirming her and told her. It was so strange. Yeah, she like flipped roles, and so she became like the one to receive, and and then he said everything that he said exactly the same reason Greg, yeah, what all that Greg wanted was her to say the words and say what he needed to hear. But of course, yeah, she also needed to hear the same thing. She needed to hear her love language was like, you're right. She said, you're
Exactly.
right.
Her love language
And like,
is you're right. Yeah, and
let's
that
get
Blake was
rings.
like, yeah, you're right. Like we don't just throw that word around. But here's the thing. Like I just on any day, like Greg's like, I don't really want to propose unless I know that you love me and that you said you love me. And like I told
Yeah.
you, we talked about it in the last episode. In Bachelor culture for a while, you just did that and that's whatever, but not now. you say I love you. And so I don't know. If Greg is an actor, well then he should be on
Ugh.
every single movie ever, because
Yes, 100%.
to me, even last night, like his body language and everything, he was just maintaining adultness in every moment. And I am just a huge fan of that kid, and I hope that, and I'm willing to be wrong, of course, always, like, but my spidey senses were like, this guy's a genuine guy, and he got in way over his head, and bless his soul for even being there and putting up with that shit, because she was abusive. To have to come back to another segment, by the way, and last teaching point for you guys, if someone rails on you, you don't need a commercial break to come back to let them do it again. Because I think a lot of our listeners will be like, because I've heard this, like, you rationalize, well, I need to practice like listening and not being triggered. And I want to give this person another, like, no, you don't need to practice not being triggered. You don't need to practice trying to understand that, because if you're and this is really huge, if you're in a situation like that and you're being an adult and the other person, after multiple times, who's given the opportunity to get out of their own shit and just show up as their adult self, doesn't do it, take a break. That is the time where you say, you know what? We're going to say it's the toothpaste. You can't put it back in the tube. We're going to say stuff that we're going to regret. I need a 20-minute break. Like, let's come back in an hour. Let's come back tomorrow. This is like a great tool from the Gottman Institute, right? Like, you just say, like, we're not being our best selves. I need a break. And then you set a time for when you're going to come back to have the conversation that both of you agree to. So you don't get to just walk away. You have a time where you're going to come back. You make an agreement about that. And ladies, like, if someone's not being their best self to you, don't wait for the commercial break to take the next round. Hit the pause button and excuse yourself. And you get to do that. And so bless Greg for staying in that seat, because any of us would have been like, this is emotional abuse, really, the way she was talking to him. And I don't want to throw around like terms like that either, like narcissism and gaslighting and emotional abuse, but that's just not.
Can we officially retire the term using the term gaslighting, using it every time somebody said something that hurt your feelings, and and calls you out on it? It's like that. It's like bitch. It's just such a cheap, lazy term. No, let's get deep here. Let's figure out what's really going on here. Is it just, don't just throw around that fucking term because it's your person's automatically slap that label on them as a gaslighter, and it's just
that makes me that makes me really mad. And I thought it was very inappropriate for her to put a psychological label on him in public. It's funny in this article. It says,
I do love that.
Go ahead.
Caitlin did say, hey, hold on. She did a little timeout, thankfully, and it's like, this is a powerful term. Let's be careful.
Let's
blame it on everybody just because you're pissed off at him.
Yeah, totally. So I mean, honestly, I think that we learn a lot from this. I think this season really taught us about, how to have good communication, how to avoid conversation in a way in which you protect yourself. I think that both of those moments for Katie were opportunities for her to just take some responsibility. And in that final episode, she really just didn't. And now it makes sense also, if I think back to even the Men Tell All, where she did her little, thank you so much, Michael, for your blah, 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 blah. Thank you so much, blah, 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 right?
Boy.
In my guess, she needs to feel good about her situation. So she needs to make him wrong, that wrong. Like, she is doing everything she can to feel good about what she did. And so, she just had to emotionally disconnect herself to do that. And I don't want that for anyone. And what I think is, and I had the amazing opportunity to work with someone who was on this show like 20 some years ago, you know, in her 20s, and then worked with her in her 40s. And now she's married, and it's really amazing. And she carried around, and we all do, we carry around those things. Like, you know, Katie's what, 29, 30. They will follow you around, right? Until you deal with it. And so if this relationship, or if you resonate and this looks like your life, you know, it's just, I just want to say, like, take responsibility. Like, the common denominator in all your failed relationships is you. There's a reason why there's one guy left. And I think what's interesting too is the two guys who went home were two guys, at least the characters that I saw, they didn't care about the TV show.
No.
And the guy that she picks is the guy who clearly cares about the TV show, because he's been on it 3 times.
Yep.
And he wants to play the role of the winner, and she wants to play the role of the Bachelorette, and may they ride off in the sunset together, and we'll see them in Bachelor in Paradise 2 years from now.
Yeah. Has that ever happened?
Yeah, of course it's happened.
Hope not.
No, I think it's definitely happened. Well,
For
Nick
real?
Viall's been on there, and he was a winner chicken dinner a couple times.
Yeah, really. I think what you said, Marni, that's so, everything you said, I couldn't agree more. And the potential, and I think the truth of the matter is that the meaner, the guy that you're dating, or the, you know, or the woman that you're dating, you know, in our case, like, man, I could tell she's so, you know, she shows up as being, and she showed glimpses of this soft. I think inside she is actually such a soft, gentle person that she had to create this thick exterior hard shell with the coaching of Aunt Lindsay and her mom, because she has been hurt and taken advantage of. And I think that's like the, you know, the silver lining, or the hope that's in there. And I do hope that, you know, that she does find this awesome relationship. I don't think Blake's going to be the one to inspire her, because I think he's going to let her do her thing. And I don't know what it's going to take her. She's coached by you in 20 years. But I do think that there is the person that you fell in love with, guys, listeners, if there was like a chart, by the, you know, to chart Marni's approval rating of Katie through the season, it's like up, down. Bitcoin stock market, it like crashes one week and it's rising the next week.
Oh my God,
all
totally.
over, because you wanted it and you saw it, and when I think we all did, and the potential, and it was like, oh my gosh, she's so fun, bubbly, and, you know, and positive, and all these things, and then you just see like, what in the world just happened? It's so unpredictable. So I do think that she's in there. I don't know if it's going to take, you know, Hoffman process, or comment, or coaching from you, or all of the above. I do hope she finds it. This was a crazy season. I'm glad we did. The season you hate the most, so the seasons I'm like, Marta, we get this.
I know. I mean,
so much juice.
Look, here's the thing. Like, there's a lot of Bachelor couples that have gone together and then gotten divorced. You know, like, you know, Chris and Crystal. Remember the guy with the weird hair? JP and Ashley. There's a bunch from Bachelor in Paradise. We've got Carly and Evan. You know, there's just a lot of them, and I don't wish that for anybody. I really hope that they are able to learn from this and all of those sorts of things, because everybody just wants love,
right?
In the end, right? And
Aunt Lindsay, if you're listening.
Yeah. And so we do a lot to fight for the illusion of love, you know, and then what happens is those people that end up with that version of it, you know, grow up, break up, get a divorce, do it again, and then come to this place of like, wow, I keep doing that same guy, different face over and over again. And I don't know what their stories are from their past, exactly what they're dating, but I just really think that that this is why you date someone for a long period of time. This is why you have non-negotiables. This is why you are looking for consistency, words and actions matching over time, because it was just a great example. Like, you can have like 3 or 4 weeks of this person being amazing, and then all of a sudden you're like, wow, they do that. And then you meet their family and you're like, wow, that's a lot of intensity. And then you find out some of their issues, and then, you know, and then you break up. And that's okay, right? Like, because that's actually dating. And so rather than be like, oh, why is this happening to me again, or blah, 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 you just say, you know what? Like, the universe is showing me some stuff here that I need to work on. And you take
Yes.
responsibility, you learn what you need to learn, and you move on. And that's that. So it's been
And
a
that's what's so great
blast.
about dating, right? Because it gives us pattern recognition, gives us enough patterns
Yes.
to realize and feedback, to listen to it. And that's why I was disappointed that Katie didn't seem to be receiving,
Nothing.
any of the feedback that she was given her, so that she could learn and grow. And until we do that, she's going to be destined to, date the same guy, different face, over and over again.
So we'll see what happens. It's been a blast. I love it. We have Bachelor in Paradise. We'll see what we can come together with that. We have Michelle season coming up. I just have to stomach through. Now you've told me I have to stomach through Tasha and Caitlin Bristow hosting,
I'm
and
sorry.
then David
we got
Spade.
David Spade, baby. Come on.
I know
He's gonna be
the
great.
whole thing is. Didn't David Spade start on Saturday Night Live?
He did. Yeah, he started
God.
forever.
He did.
He's
So
awesome.
it's just turned into a big spoof show. All right. I love you. Ladies, whatever you do it with some damn dignity. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye for now.
Hey, thanks for tuning into today's show. So if being in an intimate relationship in which you feel 100% seen, heard, and accepted by a high caliber man is a priority for you right now, and you're interested in seeing if you're a fit for working with me and my team at Dating with Dignity, here's what I want you to do. Just head over to DWD VIP, that's D as in dating, W, D as in dating, VIP.com, and book a call to speak with my team. We'll get on the phone with you for about 60 minutes, and you'll get crystal clear on what's stopping you from finding true love right now. We'll also take a look at what you want to create, what you want your whole life to look like when you're able to finally be fully expressed as a woman in a healthy relationship with an incredible guy. And if we can help you get from where you are right now to where you want to be, we will show you the fastest path possible that makes sense for you to do that. We help smart, successful women all over the world solve this one missing piece in their life so they can finally have it all. So to see if we can help you do the same thing, head over to DWDVIP.com. I'm Marni Batista, and let's talk soon.